talk to Jean-Jacques Taylor, ESPNDallas.com.
Ooh, that won't be good.
No, that'll be next hour. Got to wait for your intro here,
Oh,
Tony.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Tony Dungy.
I just got excited. I'm sorry.
Tony Dungy from Football Night in America joining us. Let's start with the Cowboys here, Tony, because we spent a lot of time last night trying to decipher what exactly was going on there. And I said lost in the shuffle here. The bigger picture is they lost a game that they shouldn't have lost. Des Bryant can act like a diva and say it was a we moment, but it was a me moment there on the sidelines where he's saying, I want the ball. I've never met somebody who says, I don't want the ball. Could you imagine a wide receiver saying, whatever you do, don't throw it to me? So we'll get to that coming up in a moment. But I'm looking at this defense here. And Monty Kiffin, you had in Tampa, came up with the Tampa 2 defense. I just think they brought in a guy that this isn't – they don't have the players to run his defense. They give up 600 yards.
Exactly. It was – Monty Kiffin is a very good football coach, but he's got a system that's a 4-3 defense. That's what he's always coached, and it's a lot of zone coverage. So Dallas had 3-4 players and man-to-man corners that they paid a ton of money to get. So now you've got a bad match. They've got to learn his system. Some of the players aren't suited for it. They've got, it's just not a good fit. Now, it will be eventually, but it's going to take some time. With all that said, and giving up 600 yards and 3,000 to Calvin Johnson, they still could have won the game with just a little fourth-quarter moxie that they just don't seem to have.
Well, okay, you have a holding call that stops the clock, which there's no excuse for that.
You can't do that. So now you end up kicking the field goal. You're up 6. You still are protecting the lead. That's what your defense gets paid to do. You give up a couple big plays, one down the middle, then one on the sideline that gets out of bounds. And then, you just can't do that. You can still play conservative defense, keep it in front of you, and not give up those big plays.
You single cover Calvin Johnson.
From the 22-yard line
you
double
double cover, double team the tight end, and you let Calvin Johnson.
And you know that their chance then is either to throw it to the sideline or throw a ball into the end zone to Calvin Johnson. So it's just that's where you've got to play smart, and that's what Dallas doesn't seem to do in those critical situations. They played very well. Tony Romo didn't turn the ball over, played well offensively, maybe didn't get it to Dez enough, but he put up some points. They played Denver and gave up 50-some points, too. If they don't get takeaways, they're struggling on defense right now.
Let me have you play the role of Jason Garrett. And if you see what Des Bryant is doing on the sidelines. Now, we don't have the transcript there.
2 years ago, I stopped it, okay? Not yesterday,
okay,
but a year and a half, 2 years ago when that goes on. And I'm with you. I know he's frustrated. He didn't get the ball enough. He thinks he can help. But when that happens, I saw Warren Moon do that. Chris Carter was the same type of guy, emotional, all that. Sean Salisbury, throw me the ball. Rich Gannon, throw me the ball. He ran a route when Warren got there, thought he was open, came back with, the theatrics. Warren Moon very quietly said, if you ever do that to me again, you'll never get another ball.
It stopped.
And it stopped fast,
But can you respect
the passion
that Des Bryant?
But it's got to be done a certain way. And that's what they've got to get across to Des. And Des thinks he's helping things with that passion. That's not the way to do it.
There's another way you can say to Tony Romo or whoever it's going to be on the sidelines, hey, you know what? Get me the ball, make things happen. It seemed like he was embarrassing Romo, Witten, maybe Wade Wilson.
And the problem is he doesn't think he is. He thinks he's helping the situation, and that's where the organization, Tony Romo, everybody, hey, Des, we're with you. You're a great talent, but you're not helping us win that way. You got to get that across to him.
He's Tony Dungy from Football Night in America joining us in studio. A couple other things here. Trying to think where what do you think what is the biggest story, the second biggest story? I don't know where you put the Cowboys with what happened, how they lost.
Yeah, to me, the bigger story is Kansas City, and they keep winning, and a lot of the same personnel as last year, but Andy Reid has brought them a confidence and a way to play, and, hey, we're going to be in tight games, and we are going to do the right thing and not make those mistakes to lose games, and they're playing very good football.
But who would you take if I said it was Chiefs-Broncos?
I'm going to take the Broncos, but –
let's say it's in Kansas City.
It'll be a tight game. I'd probably still take the Broncos, but the Chiefs have the formula to beat Denver. They can rush the passer. They don't have to blitz. They can rush their two outside guys, put a lot of pressure. They're going to run the ball and play sound and have long drives. So and the thing is, Denver won a lot of games last year. Kansas City won 2 games.
Yeah.
And now this year, with pretty much the same people, we're saying, well, who would you take? And, hey, I don't know. That to me is they've done a great coaching job in Kansas City.
And the Broncos, once again, have that Oregon Duck-like streak in them that you can play close, and then all of a sudden you look up and they've just scored 24 unanswered points.
They do that, but they can have quarters too, like they were in the first half. They're struggling. They got 7 points. A couple of things have gone wrong. Sack, fumble here. So you can hang in there with them, and if they're an exciting team. It'll be interesting in the playoffs because, you can have that one bad day or when you don't have that 28-point explosion and then you're in a tight game.
How good are the Bengals?
Bengals are pretty good, quietly pretty good. They've got a very good defensive line. Andy Dalton is getting better, and now it isn't just A.J. Green.
Do you trust Andy Dalton?
I do, because now he's got more weapons to go to. You double cover A.J. Green, take him out of the game. Okay, Giovanni Bernard, we can do some things with him. We can run the ball. We've got other wide receivers now, Sanu and Jones. And so he doesn't feel like every ball has to get to A.J. Green, and he kind of trusts his defense. If we're just humming along here and we've only got 14 points, it's going to be okay. So I like the way they're playing and their confidence level. They're
putting up big numbers there, and then I looked at the Saints. They lose to New England, with Brady having that last-second comeback, or they could be undefeated here. Sneaky, great team. Would you put them on a neutral site, Seattle against the Saints?
I would like Seattle still on the neutral side. I think Seattle's a little more complete. I like their defense a little better, but New Orleans can score, and you're going to have to score points to beat them. And in that dome, it just gets more revved up and charged up. So that, to me, is New Orleans' challenge. Somehow I got to win 5 road games and get that championship game at home.
Matt Ryan threw 56 times against Arizona.
I thought it would be a little different with Steven Jackson coming back. They missed that running game and missed that balance. I'm not sure, and defensively they're just not as good as they have been. So they're playing from behind more, a lot more pressure on Ryan. Now you're throwing 56 times without Julio Jones and Roddy White. And so it just becomes hard. But I know big expectations there, and they're just not playing well.
Vikings last night against the Packers. And I thought the Packers had a great game plan because they were committed to the run a lot more than we've seen there. Vikings, it's a bad team.
It is right now. And when you go after Josh Freeman, you're telling me you don't like your quarterbacks. You're looking for that spark, and Freeman didn't give it to him. Maybe he does eventually. I've always thought offensively they've got enough weaponry. They've got Peterson. You just need an accurate quarterback who can make some throws. You're going to get a lot of one-on-one coverage. Defensively, they haven't slowed people down, and they're getting behind, and that takes Adrian out of the games. So it's just, they've got some good young talent. Cordero Patterson is going to be a star, and maybe you build around that. You've got to get some defensive playmakers. They've just got a ways to go.
We'll come back. I want to ask you about the trade deadline. What's it like in the NFL? Because where it happens after Week 8, can Jared Allen be dealt to Josh Gordon, anybody else? We tend to talk about names who could be dealt, but it's rare when you see trades in the NFL. We'll continue with Tony Dungy. And also the wild rumor that's floating around that Lovie Smith could take over for Greg Schiano. And guess who would be the GM of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
And don't start
Tony Dungy. That'll be next. Tony Dungy, kind enough to stay with us for another segment. And, obviously you live in Tampa, so Greg Schiano certainly been the topic of conversation there. Is he going to last the season? They had the bye week. Now they go to Seattle next week. That can't be pretty. And now come the rumors here. Lovie Smith, former Bears coach, got fired after 10-win season last year. Keeping a close eye on what's going on around the NFL. Maybe Lovie Smith is your next coach there in Tampa. And then all of a sudden he might need a general manager, and lo and behold, he's Tony Dungy. So what's going on here?
Well, that's in the barbershop.
The barbershop is talking.
And Lovie, was linebacker coach there, knows the lay of the land, very well liked in Tampa. I personally think that would be a great choice for them if they make a change. The second part, is not going to happen.
You would never work with Lovey as a GM. You wouldn't do that?
No, I'm not going to be a GM. I've seen too many coaches. I coach, and I can coach. I think I can coach well, but I have no expertise and no desire to be a GM. So I think it's almost the Peter principle. Hey, you go up, you can do that, and I don't think I could. So,
have you been contacted by the Buccaneers?
No.
In no capacity?
No capacity.
Any capacity? None?
No.
None whatsoever?
No.
Are you disappointed they haven't contacted you?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Has USC contacted you again?
No.
All right, the trade deadline. It's weird that it's after the eighth week of the eighth week of the season. So, if you were interested in somebody, how does this work? That Jared Allen and Josh Gordon, I don't know who else is out there that somebody is interested in, but
there's a lot of speculation. Usually it revolves around teams that aren't winning, that have good players that are in the last year of their contract or coming that way. What can you get for them? Can you build for the future? And what team X might need? Indianapolis Colts, Reggie Wayne gets hurt. They need a receiver. Oh, Larry Fitzgerald, he'd be great. Oh, sure he would. But what are you going to give up? 3 number ones? What do you have? You've given up Andrew Luck to get Larry Fitzgerald? It's hard to work that. And then there's salary cap. Reggie Wayne's still getting paid. Now you add Larry Fitzgerald's salary in. Who gets cut?
What about Josh Gordon in Indianapolis?
Well, Josh Gordon is a young talent and looks like he's going to be a great player. But, again, you've got the same situation. Maybe you rent him for the stretch run, but now you're going to have to sign him and pay him, and where does he fit in? And the GM has to think that way. You've got to think down the road, okay, maybe we win the Super Bowl, but what happens next year?
Well, you've already had the deal with the Browns with Trent Richardson. So, maybe you got that connection there to bring in Josh Gordon.
It could, but you've already given up a number 1 draft choice.
True.
So what do you have to get Josh Gordon with? Now, 2 years from now, number 1, and that's not enough. Maybe two number 1s down the road.
What happened to Trent Richardson?
Well, I think maybe it's the Alabama running back syndrome. We've seen Trent Richardson and Mark Ingram, and they're very, very good college players. They're running behind a professional offensive line at Alabama, and they're running over people, and they get to the NFL, and it just doesn't seem like they burst onto the scene.
Are they overrated because they play at Alabama?
I don't know if overrated is the word, but they get the benefit of some holes that they don't have to do much behind the line of scrimmage. But they're really, really good players. The NFL is different. I mean, to be a special back in the NFL, a lot of guys come into the NFL and they're very good backs. But it's hard to be a special back in the NFL.
We're not taking backs in the first round anymore.
Well, I think you see guys who come in and who can get the job done and be very good. And that difference, that Adrian Peterson, that's unique. And there's just not many guys who come in and do that.
Do you think he ends his career in Minnesota?
That's a tough question because of where their team is now and where they are offensively. That'd be a good guy to trade, I think, next year, though. I don't think he'd do it.
What could you get for Adrian Peterson?
Well, if Trent Richardson, you got a number 1.
You got a 1.
Yeah.
Am I getting 2 1s for Adrian Peterson?
That's what I'd ask for, yeah. Yeah.
But in today's game, I still believe that the running back has great value. I think you have to have a balanced attack. Everybody has this, everybody's throwing for 450 yards here. Got to have, a couple playmakers on defense. You got to be able to pressure the quarterback. And I still think eventually you have to run the football a little bit.
Yeah. But it's the difference is if you have a great quarterback, you're going to be a playoff team. You can have a great running back and still not be very good. And that's the difference. So if I'm going out and I'm going to package a deal and give up 3 number 1s to get RG3 or Luck, it's worth it because if I get those guys right immediately, I'm a franchise team. I can get a great back, and I don't know. So that's where we are with running backs in this day and age.
Can you see somebody loading up these teams that need quarterbacks? Is somebody going to go up, maybe an RG3 type deal, and go after Mariota or Bridgewater or whoever it might be?
I don't know because there's enough of them. If these guys come out, if Manziel comes out and Mariota comes out, you've got Bridgewater, you've got Hundley, and now you've got 3 or 4 guys where it's not just the one guy. I mean, I think Washington felt like when Luck went off, RG3 is our guy, and we've got to get him, so you put that major package together. But I think you got 4 or 5 guys who people will say, you know what, he can be okay. He can win for us.
Good to visit with you as always, Tone. And
Always
good luck
fun.
with that GM job with the Buccaneers. I mean, what am I thinking here? Once again, that's just a rumor. Tony just denied it, right?
Denied totally. I like the barbershop. I can be the GM from the barbershop and say, hey, yeah, they should do this. Why didn't they do that? That's a better job anyway.
We'll check in with the Cowboys coming up next hour. Billy Ripken from the Major League Baseball Network will stop by. A lot to recap from the World Series over the weekend. We'll get to your phone calls, 877-3DP-SHOW. Email address, dp@danpatrick.com. As we always do on Monday, best and worst of the weekend. Play of the day coming up. And, yes, Shea and Irving.
Is Shea okay?
No, I don't think so.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.